My name is Amanda. I'm 36, and I teach history in Chicago. 3 weeks earlier, my entire world shattered in an instant. I regained awareness trapped inside a body that wouldn't respond, a prisoner behind my own eyes. My hearing worked perfectly, capturing every whispered word, every lie, every act of betrayal. What I discovered my husband and his lover plotting while standing over my unresponsive body would redefine my entire existence. This is my testimony, and I'm sharing it because my nightmare could happen to anyone. Before I pull back the curtain on this darkness, if you're on my side, hit that like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought. Let me know where you're joining me from in the comments. This story gets truly unbelievable, and I want to connect with all of you. Trust me, you need to hear how this ends. So let me rewind to the life I knew before the hospital, before the crash, before I understood the truth about the man I'd been married to for 9 years, David Miller. Just saying his name now turns my stomach. Back then, I thought he painted the stars in the sky. We met in graduate school. I was studying for my master's in education. He was getting his MBA. David was charismatic, fiercely ambitious. He dreamed of building a massive financial consulting firm, and honestly, he made it happen. By our 6th anniversary, David had established his own thriving company from nothing. He owned a gorgeous brownstone in Lincoln Park. We vacationed in Italy and the Caribbean. We were talking about trying for a baby. I believed I knew this man down to his soul. I was certain of it. I taught world history at a local high school and adored my job, my students, the life we'd built. David would tell me about his clients and deals. I'd share stories about my classroom. We had Saturday morning rituals. We had our own secret language. We had a partnership, or so I was convinced. About 18 months ago, David brought on a new junior partner, Chloe Bennett. She was 27, sharp, stunning, and according to David, a prodigy. He mentioned her constantly. Chloe secured the Anderson account. Chloe found a major tax loophole. Chloe is working late with me again on the merger. Initially, I dismissed it. I had faith in my husband. I trusted that our 9 years together formed an unbreakable bond. How foolish that seems now. Chloe started appearing at every event. Company mixers where spouses were invited, Chloe was there. David's surprise birthday party that I organized, Chloe stayed late to help clean. When I'd bring him coffee at the office, she'd be right there, leaning in, smiling at his jokes. My girlfriend started making sideways comments. My mother asked me directly if I was concerned. And what did I say? I said, David adores me. He would never be unfaithful. My trust in him is absolute. God, I was an idiot. Shift started about 8 months ago. David became emotionally distant. He was always glued to his phone, constantly texting, taking calls in his home office. Our Saturday rituals were frequently canceled. Casual, loving touches stopped. When I tried to confront him, he'd claim immense stress from work, that a massive acquisition was pending, that once it finalized, our life would return to normal. I desperately wanted to believe him. I needed to believe our marriage wasn't crumbling, that the man I loved wasn't vanishing. So I buried my doubts. I ignored the nausea when his face lit up at a text notification. I pretended not to see his new gym membership and wardrobe upgrade. I convinced myself I was being irrational, insecure, that it was all fine. But a part of me, deep down, knew my marriage was a carefully constructed illusion. I just refused to acknowledge it. Then came the night that shattered my reality, November 8th. A date forever burned into my memory. I was driving home from a late school board meeting. It was pouring rain. Classic Chicago autumn weather. I was on I-90 heading north toward home. The pavement was slick. It was hard to see, but I'd driven that route countless times. I was doing about 60, staying in my lane, being cautious. Then the traffic ahead began to slow. I pressed the brake. Nothing. I slammed my foot down harder. Still nothing. My brakes had completely failed. The sheer terror that flooded my system is indescribable. I pumped the pedal frantically. No response. I tried to downshift, but my speed was too high. An 18-wheeler was in front of me, its red taillights blowing through the downpour. I was going to rear-end it. I jerked the wheel to the left, aiming for the shoulder, but I overcorrected on the wet asphalt. My car spun out. I remember the horrifying sensation of losing all control, the world whirling around me, the sound of my own screams, and then the brutal impact. My car smashed into a concrete divider at 60 miles per hour. The airbags deployed, but it wasn't enough. The front end crumpled like tin foil. Then everything went dark. The next thing I became aware of was awareness itself. I existed. I was somewhere. Something catastrophic had happened. But I couldn't move a muscle, couldn't speak, couldn't even open my eyes initially. I could hear electronic beats, could hear muffled voices, could feel a tube in my throat making it hard to breathe. But I was powerless to react. Terror is too small a word for what I felt. Imagine being fully awake but imprisoned within your own flesh. Unable to cry for help, unable to signal that you're trapped inside. It's a unique torture I wouldn't wish on anyone. Well, maybe on David and Chloe. I later learned I'd been in a medically induced coma for 4 days post-accident. Multiple fractures, a punctured lung, severe head trauma, internal injuries. The surgeons performed emergency procedures just to keep me alive. When I finally surfaced, I was diagnosed with locked-in syndrome, a rare condition where your mind is fully intact, but your body is almost entirely paralyzed. You can't move, can't speak, but you can hear, understand, and feel everything. The doctors didn't realize I was conscious. They believed I was in a vegetative state. They discussed my case right beside my bed as if I weren't there. Minimal cognitive function, unlikely to regain awareness. If she wakes, profound neurological damage is expected. Quality of life would be negligible. And David performed the part of the grieving husband flawlessly. He was at my bedside constantly in the early days, or so the nurses later told me, clutching my hand, talking to me, weeping, telling me how much he loved me, how he couldn't imagine life without me, how I had to fight to come back to him. What an act. He deserved a Tony Award. It was on the 5th day that I first heard her voice, Chloe, in my hospital room with my husband. "Any change?" Chloe asked, her tone soft, feigning concern. "None," David said, and I detected a tightness in his voice, not the strain of sorrow, but of frustration. "I'm so sorry, David," Chloe murmured. "This has to be unbearable for you." Pause, then I felt the mattress shift as someone sat near me, then David's voice, closer now, directed at her. "I know how this sounds," he whispered, "but sometimes I wonder if it would be a mercy if she just didn't wake up." My heart would have stopped were it not for the machines. Did I hear that correctly? Did my husband just voice a wish for my death? "Don't say that," Chloe whispered back, but her tone lacked conviction. "I mean, look at her condition," David continued. "Even if she surfaces, the doctors say she'd have severe brain damage. She wouldn't be Amanda anymore. She'd require constant, lifelong care. Keeping her alive like that seems cruel." I wanted to shriek. I wanted to flail against the bed. I wanted to grab him and force him to see that I was still here, still me, still painfully aware. But I couldn't command a single muscle. I was forced to listen to my husband rationalize why my death was the preferable outcome. "When do you think?" Chloe began, then hesitated. "When do I think what?" David pressed. Another silence, then Chloe's voice, even softer. "When do you think they'll let you decide about stopping life support?" Oh God, oh God. They were talking about pulling the plug, about ending me. My own husband and his lover were standing over my bed discussing my murder. The lead physician said if there's no improvement within the next 2 weeks, we'll discuss my options, David stated. He'll probably suggest transferring her to long-term palliative care, but I hold medical power of attorney. I can make the choice to let her pass peacefully. That's such a heavy burden for you, Chloe said. I could hear her moving closer to him, having to make that call. It is, David agreed. But I believe Amanda would want me to release her if there was no hope. She wouldn't want to exist like this. She'd want me to move forward, to find happiness again. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't feel them, couldn't wipe them away. Later, a nurse mentioned my pillow was damp. My body was weeping even though I had no control, unable to express the agony and treachery tearing through me. You deserve happiness, Chloe whispered. You've endured so much. And then I heard it, a sound that confirmed it all. The sound of them kissing right there in my hospital room, not 6 feet from where I lay, utterly helpless. They were kissing, and I had to listen to the soft sounds, and I wanted to be sick. I wanted to die. I wanted anything but to lie there and hear my husband kiss another woman while negotiating my death. They lingered for another 15 minutes, talking in hushed tones about trivial things, his schedule, client lunch, how he should go home and rest. They kissed once more before leaving, And then I was alone with the machines and the sheer horror of what I had learned. That night felt eternal. I lay in the darkness, unable to sleep, unable to escape my own mind. 9 years of marriage. 9 years of my life devoted to a man who was now arranging my funeral during an affair. How long had this been going on? How long had he been deceiving me? Had he ever loved me? Or was I merely a convenience, a placeholder until a better option appeared? And the crash, the great failure, was it truly an accident, or was it something more sinister? The thought wormed its way into my brain, though I tried to fight it. David was a wealthy businessman, not a killer, right? Then I thought he was a loyal husband. Look how spectacularly wrong I was about that. For the following days, David and Chloe visited regularly, always as a pair, always performing their roles when medical staff were present. Chloe the supportive colleague, David the dedicated husband. But when they believed they were alone, when they thought I couldn't comprehend them, their masks fell. I learned the depths of their affair during these visits. It had been going on for nearly a year. It began at a corporate retreat in Denver. Chloe had too much to drink. David was stressed about a failing investment. One thing led to another. After that, they couldn't stop themselves. Secret midday meetings, weekend trips when David told me he was at conferences, late nights at the office that were actually late nights at Chloe's condo. I can't wait until we don't have to hide, Chloe said one afternoon. Soon, David promised her. Just a little while longer, once everything is finalized. Finalized. That was his code for my death, wrapping things up. They talked about their future plans, about how David would sell our brownstone, the home I cherished, the home where we'd imagined raising a family, and they'd buy a luxury high-rise apartment, about how they'd take a month-long trip to Thailand, a destination we'd always discussed visiting together, about how Chloe would get to wear all my jewelry, pieces David had gifted me over the years for birthdays and anniversaries. "Did you bring the bracelet?" Chloe asked one day, her voice eager. "Yes, it's in my coat pocket," David replied. I heard fabric rustle. "Put it on." "Oh, David, it's exquisite," Chloe breathed. "The emeralds are even more vibrant than in the pictures." That bracelet, the emerald tennis bracelet he'd given me for our 6th anniversary. He told me he'd commissioned it specially, told me it symbolized his unwavering devotion, and now he was giving it to his mistress while I lay paralyzed in a hospital bed. The fury that erupted within me then was beyond anything I'd ever known. It was a white-hot inferno. I wanted to destroy him. I wanted him to suffer as I was suffering. But all I could do was lie there and absorb it. Take in every cruel word, every casual erasure of our shared life, every excited plan they crafted for their future. A future built upon my grave. It was on the 9th day after I woke up that the situation descended into a new level of health. David and Chloe arrived later than usual that evening. A nurse had just finished checking my vitals. I heard the door click shut and their footsteps approach my bed. "How did the meeting with the financial advisor go?" Chloe asked. "Productive," David said. "Very productive, actually. I wanted to go over the numbers with you." "Of course, sweetheart," Chloe said. I heard her settle into the chair beside my bed. "Lay it all out for me." "Okay, the life insurance policy is for $2.5 million, David began, his tone clinical, as if reviewing a balance sheet. "It pays out for accidental death, which this qualifies as. No red flags there. $2.5 million. I hadn't known he'd taken out a policy that large on me. When had he done that? "The brownstone is appraised at around $1.5 million, David continued. "It's in both our names, but with her gone, full ownership reverts to me. It's owned outright, so that's pure profit. Her pension fund holds about $400,000. Her teacher's life insurance is another $250,000. All combined, we're looking at over $4.5 million. He said, "We," as if Chloe had any rightful claim to my money, to the insurance meant to protect our family, to the home I'd poured myself into, to my retirement savings from over a decade of teaching. "Oh my God," Chloe whispered. "David, that's incredible." "I know," David said, and I could hear the smug satisfaction. "We'll be set for life. You can buy that penthouse you love, travel the world. You won't ever have to work again." "When will the insurance money come through?" Chloe asked. "The advisor said once she's declared deceased or I authorize the termination of life support, the processing should take about 3 weeks, David explained. "The house will take longer to liquidate, but I can list it immediately. Maybe stage it as a tragic widower needing a fresh start. That could speed up the sale." He actually chuckled at that. I laughed at the idea of David playing the heartbroken widower to sell our home faster. A home where we'd hosted Thanksgiving dinners and celebrated anniversaries. A home where I'd curated a garden on the balcony. A home where I dreamed of bringing our child home someday. I've already been browsing real estate listings, Chloe said. There's this stunning penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private terrace, 3 bedrooms. It's $3 million, but with the insurance payout, it's easily within reach. Send me the link, David finished. We'll tour it next week. Next week. While I was still alive, still lying here listening, they were blueprinting their life together while I was still breathing. What about the funeral arrangements? Chloe inquired. Have you given that any thought? The advisor connected me with a planner, David said. I'm considering something small, private, just immediate family. We'll hold it at that elegant funeral home near the river, the one with the conservatory. Cremation or burial? Chloe asked. Cremation, David answered instantly. Burial plots are costly, and frankly, I don't want a physical site I'm expected to visit and pretend to mourn. Plus, her family can't build a shrine around an urn. My family, oh God, my parents who treated David like their own son, my sister who'd been his friend. What would this do to them? How would they cope with losing me and discovering David's true nature simultaneously? That's practical, Chloe agreed. What about her personal items, her clothes, her jewelry? We'll donate most of the clothing, David stated. Keep the good jewelry for yourself. Furniture we can sell with the house or keep what we want for the new place. The rest I'll just discard. I want a clean slate. No remnants. No remnants. That's all I was now. A remnant to be disposed of. Not his wife. Not the woman he'd sworn to love. Just an inconvenient memory of a life he wanted to obliterate. I love you so much, Chloe murmured. I know this is difficult, but we're going to be so happy. I love you too, David replied. And honestly, part of me is relieved. I was going to have to file for divorce eventually, and this is so much more efficient. No division of assets, no spousal support, no messy drama. The crash was almost fortunate. Fortunate. He called my catastrophic crash fortunate. A crash that left me paralyzed and trapped. A crash that broke my body. Fortunate. And then Chloe uttered the words that shifted everything. The words that confirmed my deepest fears. The words that transformed my tragedy into a premeditated crime. Did you tamper with her brake fluid like you talked about? Chloe asked, her voice curious. Or was the crash just a lucky break? The room fell silent except for the beeping monitors and the whoosh of the ventilator. My mind was screaming, so loud I was sure it must be audible. He tried to kill me. David tried to kill me. This was no accident. He sabotaged my car. He sent me onto that wet highway knowing my brakes would fail. He attempted to murder me for an insurance payout and a younger woman. Chloe, David said, his voice dropping to a warning tone. What? Chloe said. There's no one here. She can't hear a thing. You said she's essentially brain dead. I know, but still, David said. We shouldn't discuss that. Oh, come on, Chloe coaxed, and I heard her shift closer. You can tell me. I've been so curious. Did you actually go through with it? Another pause, a long one, and then David's voice, low and icy. Yes, he said. I did it. 3 days before the crash, I went out to her car around 2 a.m. and sliced the brake lines almost through. I weakened them enough that they'd fail under stress, but not so much that she'd detect an issue immediately. I knew she'd be driving home from that school board meeting. Knew she'd be on the expressway. It was designed to look like an accident caused by the storm and poor visibility. Oh my God, he really did it. He genuinely tried to murder me. My husband, the man I'd loved, the man I'd entrusted with my life. He'd sneaked out in the dead of night and disabled my car and sent me to my death. That's genius, Chloe said, admiration in her tone. How did you know what to do? The internet, David said, and he actually chuckled. You can find guides for anything. Practiced on a wreck at a scrapyard first to be sure. The whole operation took maybe 25 minutes. 25 minutes. That's all it took for him to plot and attempt my murder. 25 minutes to invalidate 9 years of marriage. 25 minutes to try to erase my life. Weren't you scared of getting caught? Chloe asked. A bit, David admitted. Brake failure during a heavy storm is fairly common, especially on mid-range sedans, and Amanda's car was a 2016. Not new, but not old enough to raise major suspicion. Police wrote it off as a weather-related accident. They didn't inspect the brake lines thoroughly because the front was so demolished. God, you're clever, Chloe purred. And brave. I'm not sure I could have done that. You didn't have to, David said. I did it for us for our future so we could be together without the complications of a divorce. We kissed again. I could hear them. Could hear Chloe sigh. Could hear clothing adjust. and I had to lie there and listen to them revel in my attempted murder because I wasn't dead. I was very much alive. Now I possessed the truth. The rage and anguish I felt in that moment transcended description. It was a screaming, violent tempest inside my soul. I wanted to tear him limb from limb. I wanted him to feel every ounce of my pain. I wanted him to know I had heard everything, that I knew his crime, that he hadn't succeeded. But I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but lie there with silent tears, drowning in the knowledge that my husband was a would-be killer and I was his intended victim. We stayed for over an hour, making detailed plans, discussing their future, touching and kissing while I lay 4 feet away. When they finally departed, I was alone with my thoughts, my fury, and the devastating truth of David's actions. I had to find a way to communicate. I had to find a way to make someone understand that I was present, conscious, aware. How? How could I convey anything when I couldn't move or speak? When everyone was convinced I was essentially brain dead? The answer arrived the next day, and her name was Lena. Lena Petrov was a nurse in the neuro ICU. She was in her late 20s, with compassionate eyes and a gentle demeanor. She'd been assigned to my care since I left the immediate ICU, and she always spoke to me directly. Unlike other staff who treated me as a medical object, Lena treated me as a human being. "Good afternoon, Amanda," she said as she entered that day. "Let's see how you're doing today and get you comfortable." She moved through her routines, checking monitors, adjusting my IV, documenting notes. Then she leaned in to clear my breathing tube, a standard procedure. "This might feel a bit strange," she told me as always. "Just try to relax." And then she saw it. Her eyes widened as she looked at my face. "Amanda," she said, her voice tentative. Are you crying?" I was crying again. The uncontrollable tears. The only physical expression my body could manage for the torment I was enduring. "Oh, honey," Lena said softly, reaching for a tissue to gently pat my cheeks. "I can't imagine how frightening this must be for you, wherever your mind is. If I could have laughed bitterly, I would have. Wherever my mind was, it was right here. Trapped in this living hell, hearing everything, feeling everything, powerless to intervene." Lena finished her task and continued her work, but I noticed her glancing at me thoughtfully. She was processing something. She returned later during her rounds, performed her checks, and then did something unprecedented. She pulled a chair beside my bed and sat down, looking directly into my eyes. "Amanda," she said quietly, "I'm going to ask you a question. This might sound irrational, but can you hear me? If you comprehend what I'm saying, try to blink just one time. Can you do that?" Could I blink? I'd never attempted it. I'd been imprisoned in this motionless shell for over a week. Maybe I could control my eyelids. Maybe that one small muscle still obeyed. I concentrated every fiber of my being on my left eyelid. Every bit of willpower, every shred of strength I had left. Blink, blink, damn it, blink, and I felt it. A tiny, fluttering movement. My eyelid twitched slightly. "Oh my God," Lena whispered. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Amanda, you can hear me, can't you? Do it again. Blink if you understand me." I did it again, pouring all my focus into that one minuscule motion. My eyelid fluttered once more. Lena's eyes welled with tears. "Oh my God," she repeated. "You're in there, you're conscious. You've been conscious this whole time." She stood up quickly, looking around, overwhelmed. "I need to get the doctor. I need to tell someone." No, she couldn't tell them yet. Not while David still held medical power of attorney. Not while he could still decide to end my life. I needed to tell Lena the truth first. I needed her to know what David had done. But how could I communicate that with only eye blinks? Lena must have sensed my panic because she sat back down. "Wait," she said. "Are you afraid?" Blink once for yes, twice for no. I blinked once. Yes, God, yes, I was terrified. "Okay," Lena said, thinking. "Are you in physical pain?" 2 blinks. No. Physical pain was manageable. It was the psychological torment that was unbearable. "Is something else wrong?" Lena asked. 1 blink. "Yes, everything was wrong." Lena bit her lip, clearly strategizing how to proceed. "I'm going to get a communication board," she stated. "It'll be slow, but we can spell out words. Can you move your eyes up and down?" I tried, focused everything on looking upward. My eyes shifted just a little, then downward. Another small movement. "Perfect," Lena said, standing. "I'll be right back. Don't worry, Amanda, we're going to solve this." She left the room, and I was alone with a tiny, fragile flame of hope for the first time since I'd awakened. Lena knew I was conscious. She was going to help me. Maybe, just maybe, I could expose David. Lena returned 20 minutes later with a printed sheet. The alphabet was arranged in rows. She held it where I could see it. "Okay," she said. "This will be painstaking, but it will work. I'll point to different rows, and you blink when I'm on the row with the letter you need. Then we'll narrow it down. Ready?" We began the arduous process. Lena pointed to a row of letters. I'd blink when she hit the correct row. She'd then point to individual letters within that row. It took almost 45 minutes to spell the first word. H-E-L-P. Lena's face grew serious. "You need help. You're in danger." "From whom?" "H-U-S-B-A-N-D, your husband," Lena asked, confusion and dread mixing in her expression. "David, but he's here all the time. He seems so devoted." I would have scoffed if I could. Devoted. Sure, devoted to cashing my life insurance check. He continued spelling. It took hours. Lena had to tend to other patients and return. Slowly, letter by agonizing letter, I told her everything. The affair, the funeral plans, the money, and finally what I'd heard Chloe ask and what David had confessed. "H-E-C-U-T-M-Y-B-R-K-E-S." Lena leaned back in her chair, her face pale. "He tried to kill you," she whispered. "Oh my God, Amanda, he tried to murder you for the insurance." One blink. "Yes. And you heard him admit this, him and his partner." One blink. "When are they due to visit again?" Lena asked. I spelled out T-O-N-I-G-H-T. Lena checked the clock. It was already 6:30 p.m. David and Chloe typically came around 7:30. "Okay," Lena said, her voice taking on a resolute edge. "Okay, I believe you, Amanda, and we're going to catch them. I'll record them. I'll hide my phone here where it can capture audio. If they say anything incriminating, we'll have proof." She stood and scanned the room, searching for a hiding spot. Finally, she tucked her phone behind the box of tissues on the bedside table, angling it so the microphone was clear but the device was concealed. "It's recording," she whispered to me. "If they confess again, we'll have evidence. Stay calm, all right? I'll be right outside if you need anything." Lena left, and I was alone with the recording phone and my racing heart. Did they say anything damning? Or was their previous conversation a solitary lapse in judgment, a moment of carelessness never to be repeated? At 7:25 p.m., I heard the door open. David and Chloe. "Hey, sweetheart," David said, and I knew he was addressing me, putting on his show. "How are you holding up today?" "Any progress?" Silence as he presumably looked at the machines or my chart. "Still no change," he stated, and now his tone was flat, disappointed. "It's been over 2 weeks," Chloe said. "When can you speak to the doctors about, Soon," David replied. "The neurologist is giving me his final assessment tomorrow. If he confirms there's no brain activity and 0 chance of recovery, I can authorize the termination of life support." "And then," Chloe prompted. "And then we wait," David said. "She'll pass within a few hours once they remove the ventilator. Then we begin the process of finalizing everything." They were talking about killing me, right here in front of me. They were casually discussing disconnecting the machines that sustained me. And they had no clue I could hear every syllable, that Lena's phone was capturing every word. "I can't wait to begin our real life together," Chloe said. "To finally be open about us." "Me too," David agreed. "You know what I was thinking. After the funeral, after everything is settled, we should take an extended vacation somewhere exotic. Fiji or the Seychelles, just escape from all of this." "On her insurance money?" Chloe asked, and she actually giggled. She giggled while talking about spending the proceeds from my death. "Why not?" David said. "She certainly won't need it. We might as well put it to good use." A brief silence. Then Chloe spoke again, her voice lower. "Do you ever feel guilty?" she asked. "About what you did?" My heart rate accelerated, the monitor beeping faster. "Come on, David. Confess again. Admit it." "Guilty," David said. "Not particularly. I mean, it's not like I enjoyed the idea of hurting her, but our relationship was finished. She was an obstacle. This method is just cleaner. She avoids the pain of a divorce. I protect my assets. And you and I get to be together. It's a better outcome for everyone involved." "But you killed her," Chloe said. "Or tried to." "Doesn't that weigh on you at all?" "Say it," I thought. "Say you cut the brake lines." Admit it aloud one more time. "Look," David said, his voice hardening slightly. "We've been through this. It's done. The brake lines were already worn. I just accelerated the process. It wasn't like I stabbed her. It was quick, relatively painless. She probably never knew what hit her before the impact." There it was, not as explicit as before, but close enough. He'd admitted to tampering with my brakes, to causing the crash, to trying to kill me. "You're right," Chloe conceded. "I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm being weird about this. It's just being in here with her like this. It feels unsettling." "We don't have to stay long," David assured her. "Just long enough to appear concerned if anyone checks. Then we can head back to your place." They remained another 10 minutes discussing mundane topics, a project deadline, a show Chloe wanted to stream, dinner plans. Perfectly normal couple, having a perfectly normal chat. Except they were standing over the body of the woman one of them had tried to murder. No. When they finally left, I felt a wave of relief so potent I wanted to weep. He had it. Lena's phone had recorded everything. David's admission about accelerating the process. Their casual conversation about my death and their plans for the money. All of it was on that recording. Lena came back in 5 minutes after they'd gone. She retrieved her phone and plugged in earbuds, listening to the recording. I watched her expression cycle through shock, disgust, horror, and finally, righteous anger. When she finished, she looked at me, her eyes glistening. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry this is happening to you. We have them now, Amanda. We have everything on this recording. I'm calling the police and your family. We will ensure David faces consequences for what he did to you." One blink. "Yes, thank God. Yes." "First," Lena said, "I need to inform the attending physician. You have locked-in syndrome, Amanda. You are fully conscious. Your cognitive functions are intact. You simply can't move. Doctors need to know this immediately because it fundamentally changes your care plan and prognosis. More critically, it means David cannot legally make any decisions about withdrawing life support. You are a conscious patient with full rights." Lena left to find the neurologist, and I was alone with the overwhelming relief of finally being seen, of finally having someone who knew the truth, who believed me, who was fighting for me. Dr. Evans, the neurologist, entered with Lena 20 minutes later. He was a man in his 50s with thinning hair and a keen gaze. Lena must have briefed him because he came straight to my bedside with a pen light and the communication board. "Amanda," he said gently, "Nurse Petrov informs me you've been communicating with her, that you can hear and understand us. I'm going to conduct some tests, all right? Just follow my instructions as best you can." He performed a series of examinations, asked me to blink on command, to move my eyes vertically, to blink once for yes and twice for no to various questions. Each tiny, deliberate movement seemed to affirm his findings. "Remarkable," he kept murmuring. "Absolutely remarkable. Classic locked-in syndrome presentation. Full consciousness and cognition preserved, but near total paralysis aside from vertical eye movement and blinking." He turned to Lena. "This changes everything. We need to conduct a full neurological workup immediately, and we must notify her next of kin. Does her husband know?" "No," Lena said firmly, "and we need to discuss that privately." Dr. Evans looked puzzled but nodded. "Amanda, I'm going to step out with Nurse Petrov briefly. We'll return shortly." They exited, and I could hear their muffled voices in the corridor. Lena was telling him everything: the affair, plan to withdraw support, the recording, David's confession about the break lines. When they re-entered, Dr. Evans's face was stern. He looked at me with a mixture of profound pity and outrage. "Amanda," he said, "I've reviewed the recording. I'm contacting the police immediately. And I'm calling your emergency contacts to locate a family member other than your husband. Who should we call?" "My sister. I needed my sister." Lena helped me spell out her name and number using the board. MELISSA and then the digits, one by painful one. Dr. Evans made the call. I couldn't hear Melissa's side, but I heard his. "Miss Miller, this is Dr. Evans from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. I'm calling about your sister, Amanda. Yes, she's stable. Actually, that's why I'm calling. Amanda has regained full consciousness. I need you to come to the hospital immediately. There's been a significant development, and we must speak with you in person. No, please do not contact David. This is critically important. Come alone and don't inform anyone else you're coming, especially not David. I understand this sounds unusual, but I will explain everything upon your arrival. How soon can you get here?" Melissa, it seemed, said she'd be there in 20 minutes because Dr. Evans thanked her and hung up. Then he called the police. "Yes, I need to report an attempted homicide," he said into the receiver. "I have a patient who was in a vehicular accident 2 weeks ago. She's been conscious the entire time with locked-in syndrome and overheard her husband confess to cutting her brake lines to cause the crash. Yes, I am serious. We possess an audio recording of the confession. Yes, we'll be here. She's in the neuro ICU at Northwestern." After he disconnected, Dr. Evans sat beside my bed. "The police are en route," he told me. "So is your sister. We will guarantee your safety, Amanda. David will not be able to harm you again." The relief that washed over me was so intense, I began crying once more. Lena gently wiped my tears. "It's okay," she whispered. "You're safe now. We've got you."